everyone. This is Allison with Dance Informa, and we're here with Al Blackstone. It's very exciting.
Yeah, I'm super psyched.
Yay!
Hi.
Nice meeting you, and thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
Let's jump right into some jump questions.
I like that use of the word jump.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm ready. Yes, let's jump in.
Okay, what is your favorite thing about teaching at jump?
My favorite thing about teaching at jump is the fact that you have many people from different places. So we are in Atlanta this weekend, but there are people here from South Carolina, there are people here from New York, there are people here that come from other places, as well as all the teachers and choreographers who come from many different places that all meet in one place for one common purpose, which is to share information and passion and enthusiasm for dance.
Yeah.
So I think that the idea of that is very exciting to me, and no matter how exhausted I may be coming into it, I always feel incredibly invigorated because you can feel a very palpable energy and enthusiasm once you get here.
What is one of the most challenging things about being a convention teacher?
Traveling.
That makes sense.
And I think for me also, I come in with new material and I feel excited about it, but it's not necessarily possible for me to come in every weekend with new material.
Right.
And so I think keeping it fresh for me, finding the right moment to change and try something different, following my instincts to say like, I don't really feel excited about doing this material, I'm going to try something new. And then, the risk of whether or not it's going to be as successful as what works. So for me, that's, I think, my own personal challenge on top of just, I think, the traveling. But again, like I said, no matter how exhausted you are, you get here and you can't help but be inspired to do your best and to give them something wonderful.
Do you get to take class ever at jump from your colleagues?
I do. I've been dealing with a little bit of an injury this year, so I haven't taken as much as I'd like to, but I love taking class, and it's so funny because like I'm very much in class, like I'm the sort of person that is very willing to ask someone next to me like about like a count,
Right.
like what is that count?
Right.
And so my favorite thing is it's almost always happens that I'll be like in the senior room or the teen room, and I'll be taking class, and I'll ask one of the dancers, one of the kids, a question, and they are like so unsure of like what's going, like why is Al asking me a question? They like that, yeah, and it takes them a second to realize like, oh, he's just like taking class, and it's fun. It's nice to have those moments with them where we're just having the same experience, and that can happen in life. You can put someone on a pedestal, but ultimately like they might end up just standing next to you going through the same thing.
Who are your biggest inspirations, influences, either in the dance world or beyond?
Yeah, that's always such a good question. I think for me, there's three people I think that I have sort of built a foundation for me of what I'm doing now. The first was Jason Parsons. Of
course, yeah.
Both as a dancer, I saw him perform in Mia Michaels' company Raw, it was in the 90s, I believe. It was very late 90s.
Yeah, early 2000s.
And early 2000s, and I remember seeing him perform and just feeling completely blown away by this sort of blend of technique and masculinity and passion, and there was just something really engaging about him and how much he loved dance. And then from there, Andy Blankenbuehler was this huge. I actually knew that I wanted to be just like him from watching him teach a warm-up. I hadn't even seen his choreography.
Wow.
I watched him teach a warm-up, and I thought I had never seen someone that it was just so alive, the warm-up, and so full of intention, and I was really thrilled by it. And obviously he's gone to do so many amazing things. But he was a great teacher of mine, and I was lucky enough to study with him for a long time.
Wow.
As was Jason.
Right.
And then the third is someone I've never met, who's a choreographer named Matthew Bourne, who's British, and he's an amazing choreographer who
classic.
and does a lot of story-driven work where there's no dialogue, but everyone's dancing and everyone has technique, but everyone has a character and everyone's different.
And some funny like play on words, if you will.
Yes. There's wit and there's heart and there's depth, and I think that for me those are my biggest inspirations as I move along. And then as I get older, like you draw inspiration from other places, you draw inspiration from film or books or my friends or people that I meet or experiences that I've had.
is your choreographic process? So do you kind of come at it from a music standpoint or the world or
Sure. I mean, I think it's different depending on the project. So I work on a lot of musicals, so obviously that's inspired by the material. And then whatever I can come up with within that material.
Right.
But for my own work or for class material, it's usually the music first. I'm super excited by music. Music is my hobby. I love finding new music, searching for it, obsessing over it. You know, a friend of mine once said it was like having it like playing, like trading baseball cards, like music with your friends. You know, it's like, I'll give you this one if you give me that one.
That's so interesting because I feel like there is a territorial aspect of some songs.
Totally, yeah. Although Spotify sort of changed that, or it's interesting because you can like so easily share music now, which I love. I think it's fun. Anyway, getting back to process, music. It's usually music first, or if I have an idea, like I want to do a dance about a girl with a mustache, and that's really random, but like let's say that's the idea, then it's like I'll have lists of music that I like, and I'll go through that list and see if something can make sense. And oftentimes that's the most successful because I'll be like, whoa, that kind of works. And you listen to it and you're like, yeah, that actually worked, you know, and in unexpected ways. So it's not so literal, but it also doesn't, the ideas don't fight one another. Yeah, something like that.
Most of your work is very story driven. So did you have a more musical theater background, or is that where you just kind of veered toward like honing in that craft?
I did not have a musical theater background. I was a total studio kid, my convention kid. My parents had a studio, and
okay, cool.
Yeah, in Jersey. They had it for 44 years.
Wow.
And crazy, right?
Congrats to them.
Yes. And they were amazing teachers and amazing people. And my mom definitely always took me to Broadway shows because I grew up so close. So it was in my life, but it was never the thing that I really wanted to do until later. I started thinking, well, maybe I should, do musicals. And so I started auditioning and studying with Andy. And it was a long journey. But as far as the storytelling through choreography, it was just one of these things that I sort of started playing with and really loved doing. And I think I realized that I liked the way I was able to engage an audience. And that was, I think, the thing that really inspired me and drew me to continue doing story-driven work, was I just liked the way I could take an audience on a journey. And I continue to want to do that. It's sort of feels like the thing that I am driven by, is this desire to make people feel something. I think I also always kind of wanted to be a writer. And I think that it's an opportunity for me to write stories. And,
with bodies.
With bodies, yeah.
You could have dinner with anyone in the world right now. Who would you have dinner with?
Alive or either?
Either.
Bob Fosse.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of obvious, but yes. Bob Fosse, yes.
Never obvious.
Yeah, I mean,
he's just He's such a character, or he was in his life. And I in the same way, I've always wanted to know what he was like just at dinner, or
Although I
smoking a cigarette.
There's a part of me that's wants to say Michael Bennett, because I think there's less information about Michael Bennett out there, or you can know. I feel like you can read so much about Bob Fosse. There's just so many stories. I feel like there's less about Michael Bennett, so I'm torn.
And just kind of to wrap up, do you have any advice for the jump dancers or non-jump dancers that aspire to be professionals or continue dancing or choreographing in their lives?
I think there's a couple. I think, first of all, don't rely on the teacher's attention to determine your experience in the room.
Wow, yeah.
So know whether you have fully given yourself to the class and taken and given as much as you could, based on just especially older dancers, did you do your best? Were you present the entire time? Right. I think it's really easy for people to think that what they do in a room doesn't matter. But what every single dancer in those rooms is doing matters. every moment matters.
Yes.
You can change your room by having a good attitude. You can change your room by being a good listener.
Right.
You can change your room by being present. You can change your room by being nice. So I think a lot of dancers, it's easy to think like no one's looking at me and just sort of sit back. Yeah. But they're choosing that.
Right.
And I think that they underestimate how much we need and how much we look to them both for energy and for inspiration. It's a two-way street. So
Wow, yeah.
that's my number one. And then another number two is there's probably at least 3 or 4 people in that room that could end up being your friend forever if you would just be open enough to and brave enough to talk to them. So look to have a beautiful experience, and I think you'll find it.
Right.
But I think it takes being open. One of my best friends now, I met in a convention class when we were 13, and we just started talking to each other. I probably asked her a question, and when we
What kind is it?
Yeah, exactly. And we lost touch, and 5 years later, we both moved to LA the same week and ran into each other at both of our first auditions in Los Angeles. Neither of us knew anybody, and I was like, Danielle? And she was like, Al? And now, many years later, we both live in New York, and she's going to be in the show in Seattle that I'm choreographing.
Lovely.
Yeah, and it became and that happened because we talked to each other on a convention floor when we were 13 years old.
Oh, that's so lovely. Well, that's all I have. Just wonderful. I feel like we got all we need.
Great. I feel good. Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Yeah, it was great. It was my pleasure.
Yay, thank you.
I'm always